Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Ellis Star, national racing analyst from Equibase. We're going to take a look at a few stakes because we're in the midst now of a holiday weekend, which will continue right to Monday, Memorial Day. Don't let's not zip right through summer immediately. Let's get the beginning part. Memorial Day on Monday, and that means a lot of venues that normally wouldn't be open will be, and there will be some nice stakes action. So looking forward to that. But we have stakes all around today as well. So Ellis, we're going to take a look at some New York stakes action, Churchill, Monmouth, Gulfstream, a couple of stakes, but we'll take a look at least one of those. So we'll do that with Ellis. And then a little bit later on as well, we'll be joined by our friend Mike MacAdams from the Daily Gazette. He was down in Baltimore last week, so we'll get some thoughts on the Preakness and some thoughts looking forward to Belmont at Saratoga. I know from his Twitter feed he's been in Saratoga within recent days, so we'll catch up with Mike as well. I do want to, because I mentioned coming up on Monday is some stakes action. Let me just hit you with some of that stakes action. The Wonder again will be Monday in New York. The Winning Colors at Churchill. This is coming up on Monday. Monday also the George Barker at Finger Lakes. So we'll have a little Finger Lakes stakes action. But the big Mr. Prospector at Monmouth. But the big action on Monday will be at Santa Anita. The Grade 1 Gamely, the Grade 2 Hollywood Gold Cup, the Grade 2 Shoemaker, all on Monday out at Santa Anita. So a big day out in Southern California coming up to wrap up the holiday weekend. Looking forward to some of that action, certainly. But as I say, nice action today as well. I don't think I labeled, we talked a little bit about it, during the handicapping show, but I don't think I appropriately labeled that Mott horse in the finale at Churchill Downs as my dark horse play of the day. So I'll take this opportunity to reiterate that finale we talked about at Churchill with the firster by City Light out of a mare called Fascinate. First-time starter that they paid $500,000 for will be my dark horse play of the day, brought to you by the Dark Horse Mercantile in downtown Saratoga. They're sponsoring the dark horse play of the day throughout the Triple Crown season. And again, we thank them for that. Getting 8-1 on Come As You Are, the number 9 horse in the finale today at Churchill. And again, we kind of talked about the workouts, and a couple of them down at Payson going back to March even were pretty good. And I think kind of tout this horse as being live in debut. 7 furlongs, tough trip to debut at, but I find this horse interesting at a price. Tyler Gaffalione, nominated to jump on board in the debut effort. There are some other interesting horses in here. As Anthony Mormino mentioned, Godolphin has, a nicely bred first-time starter from Brad Cox that certainly will take some action. But I'll take a little shot with our dark horse play of the day for this Saturday afternoon. We'll look at race number 11, Churchill Downs, horse number 9, Come As You Are. All right. Also, I had pulled up some notes from the Racing Forum yesterday. Speaking of Saratoga, working out over the Oklahoma track yesterday, Fierceness and Mind Frame both worked out and got good reports. There was a Mike Welch article in the Racing Forum. Mind Frame, who had a 103 buyer in his debut effort, and then won his second start as well, is a highly anticipated runner. And Todd Pletcher yesterday on the Oklahoma track teamed him up with his runner Fierceness, and Todd was quoted as saying, "I thought it was a very good work from both horses. They both seem to be doing it well in hand coming to the wire. We kind of let Mindframe do a little more on the gallop out since he had to work last week, and he's a little more lightly raced." Pletcher has said, doesn't really have an answer to the poor showing for Fierceness as the favorite in the Derby. He's quoted in the Welch article as saying, "I think the one thing he did, which he's done in the 3 races he's lost, is kind of hopped a little bit at the start and didn't get away as cleanly as we would have hoped." And Johnny Velasquez thought he was a little bit keen when he asked him into the race, and thought he was in a perfect spot down the back stretch. So again, the upshot being, they're still scratching their head a little bit on that one. Down at Aqueduct, Antiquarian worked. They're looking at him as potentially Belmont. He comes out of that 88 Beyer win in the Peter Pan. I liked him that day. I'm not sure with the 88 Beyer. I'm super enthused in a couple of weeks, but we shall see. But again, there are some update on some of the Pletcher runners headed potentially to Belmont at Saratoga coming up in a couple of weeks from today. Looking forward to it. All right, we'll take a break. Again, a little bit later on, Mike MacAdams from the Daily Gazette with some Preakness thoughts. But after the break, we'll be joined by Ellis Star. We'll talk a little bit about some of the stakes action today with Ellis coming up right after this. Stay tuned. It's been referred to as possibly the best equine-themed gift shop on the planet. Impressions of Saratoga. Impressions of Saratoga, celebrating the Saratoga and equestrian lifestyles. It's your number one choice for Saratoga souvenirs, apparel, and gift shopping. We have gifts for the entire family, and we're pet-friendly too. Visit us online at impressionssaratoga.com or come on down. Impressions of Saratoga, 368 Broadway, downtown Saratoga.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Belmont. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by our friend Ellis Star, the national racing analyst for Equibase. Ellis, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, racing fans.
And again, great stakes card today. As usual on a Memorial Day weekend, great stakes action throughout the weekend. But of course, I want to start and go back to last week and get your thoughts. We'll take a look at the stretch run here as Seize the Gray gets it done last week in the Preakness, the second jewel of the Triple Crown. I thought it was a nice run from Mystic Dan. I had used Catching Freedom on top over Mystic Dan. I did not have Seize the Gray on my card in my mix, but it was a fun story. If you can't win the race, you like the stories. And Wayne Lucas getting yet another Preakness at age 88 was pretty remarkable. But what were some of your thoughts on last week's Preakness?
Well, first of all, I all the hundreds of people I talked to Derby week in various groups I work with, I said how phenomenal it would be if Wayne won the Derby. And of course, he does it 2 weeks later. But I've been, anybody that's asked me this all week, I've said, well, it was National Treasure Part 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And if you knew that was the plan, and if you knew that imagination would take back and give up, then you would have had the winner. But there's a couple of ifs, probably as big as the room I'm sitting in right now. So, yeah, it was a great ride by Torres, aggressive. And, of course, the course got comfortable and just kept going and found his stride. A lot of horses do, and they make the lead. And all power to Wayne. You know, it's as handicappers, it's kind of difficult at times to assess a horse's ability not to stretch out, but from an off the pace win in a one-turn race to stretch out to two. And that's what it is, because normally when you're looking at a pace line of a horse that ran off the pace in a sprint, they're going to be further back in a route. And you want a horse that runs kind of evenly in a sprint that you think is going to lead in a route. But, you know, my hat's off to him. Mystic Dan, Catching Freedom ran good. But again, once Seize the Gray got comfortable on the lead, he was going to be pretty tough to go after.
Yeah, I thought the other two got to him at the top of the stretch. I thought they were going to go by, but exactly what you said. Now that's at the top of the stretch. I thought they were going to go by, but to emphasize what you said, as they were coming out of the backstretch going into the turn, I thought, oh, he's going to be tough to catch, and that's what it turned out to be. He just had too much left in the stretch.
Yeah, he did. And horses, I mean, there's certainly ability, but they get. We've seen it hundreds of times. Horses get brave. Yeah. When they get the lead many times. Some give it up, but some get very brave and just say, I've got a lot left. I'm not going to let you get in front of me.
All right, let's take a look at today's stakes action. Again, we'll kind of bounce around the country because there's nice stakes action at a number of the venues. We'll start right in New York. Subdivision, if folks watch the show enough, they know I love the subdivision of the 3-year-olds on the turf, because I think it's a division that starts early in the year down in Florida and some of the southern tracks where turf racing is taking place, and continues right through the end of the year. And it seems like virtually every venue at some point during the year has a nice little 3-year-old stakes race. And the Pennine Ridge is one of those 3-year-old stakes on the turf. They're going to go 1 1/8 miles. I pulled up a replay, Keeneland, April 13th, because I know you like Royal Majesty. We're going to look at Royal Majesty with a nice win here. Going to be the number 5 horse. I'm going to take a little shot against the Appleby horse, Legend of Time, with Risk Tolerance, second-time starter for Chad Brown, who I think can be interesting in here. Legend of Time, obviously, from Appleby is very, very dangerous. White Palomino, the other Chad Brown for me, and on the morning line as well. Triple Espresso for Todd Pletcher, I think, is intriguing in here. But give us your thoughts this afternoon in the Pennine Ridge.
Well, as you mentioned, there are good 3-year-old stakes starting in early winter in Gulfstream. And one of those was the American Turf 3 weeks ago, when Legend of Time had no excuse at 6 to 5. He'd been off 5 weeks, I think, since winning a couple of stakes in Dubai. Three actually in a row, technically, 2 allowance races and a stake. And then, he just had nothing at 6 to 5. Rosario's going to ride him. I'm a huge Appleby fan because of his high percentage of everything he runs in the U.S. I'm going to take a stand against him. That was just a really poor race. Yeah. It was the fastest race because even though he ran 5th in Grade 2 company, he got a 96 Equibase speed figure. Well, Royal Majesty got 97 in that win at Keeneland. And if you draw a line through his Colonel Liam, when he was 7 wide, he's won his last 2. There's only 2 this year in turf routes. If you draw a line through the other one, he's 5-1, I think. And Belmont knows when his horses are ready for stakes competition. So I like him. Of Brown's horses, White Palomino, a little better than yours, but I wouldn't argue. Risk Tolerance at 3, White Palomino at 6 to 1. If those odds are even close to first time, I got to go with the higher odds. And he's got the 97 speed figure as well. The issue with this is it's very strange. Brown's record, I ran a race plans query. Brown's record with 3-year-olds in from maiden races to stakes in turf routes, which would apply to both his horses for the last 5 years, is 5 for 38 with another 9 in the money. And in graded stakes, he's only 3 for 22. So it seems like that's the one thing where he might be rushing his horses a little bit, or maybe just taking shots, because that's pretty low percentage for a guy that's 25% to be 3 for 22. So that's interesting. And then the 7 Triple Espresso hasn't been seen since the Jeff Ruby, but he was ahead behind Seize the Gray in that race, and that is pretty significant considering Seize the Gray ran so well since then. So I would give him a shot. His maiden turf race back in January at Gulfstream was pretty strong as well. But I really like Royal Majesty. I'm going to bet him a 2-1 or more, and mess around with some exactas with the other two.
Yeah, interesting stat on Chad Brown, certainly. And I think it's a fun, interesting race. Again, in that division, that subdivision, I like quite a bit. All right, let's move over and take a look at the Churchill Stake this afternoon. It's the Kirtana. We're looking at fillies and mares going 1.5 miles on the grass. I pulled up a replay of the Bewitched because we have the top 4 coming back. It'll be number 1, Chop Chop winning, number 4, Atomic Blonde second, Vergara third, and then number 3, Tower Bridge runs 4th. And again, they're all back this afternoon. I went right back to Chop Chop, but underneath I put the face that we're not seeing in this Bewitched. I thought Heavenly Appointed for Grand Motion could be a little bit of a player as well. What did you see in the Kirtana?
So last week they ran the male version of this race. It was a grade 3, the Louisville Stakes, and it was a bigger field. And I guess I got kind of lucky. On one of my blogs, I saw a horse named Sugoi, who I thought would make the lead, and there was really no other speed in the race. And he ended up exactly like Caesar Gray, by the way. He made the lead. They came to him a little bit. He still held everybody off, and he was like 10-1 morning line. He ended up paying $41.
Ooh.
And I looked at this race the same way, because there's really only 2 horses that ever really like to have the lead. Those are Sand and Sea and Vergara. The problem with Vergara, who finished third, as you said, in the Bewitched, is that she's lost ground in the stretch in her last 3, and I don't like when horses start doing that. I mean, maybe an excuse in the Bewitched off a 5-month playoff, but she was second, 2 behind the leader, ended up third, 6 back. Before that, in Long Island last fall, she led, and then she faded from second to third in the last 8th, and then in the Dowager at Keeneland, she faded from 3rd to 5th. She doesn't need the lead. She stalked the pace. And I think Gutierrez is going to send Sand and Sea, the 6 horse here, who put together 3 straight wins last October through December. 2 of them were $100,000 handicaps on the all-weather at Gulfstream, 1 at 9 furlongs. And she's the kind of horse that if she gets the lead. Now, what's interesting here is Riley Mott had her off after finishing 3rd in the handicap on January 27th. He didn't bring her back. He brought her back in a 6 furlong race. And, of course, she's up close in the pace. She's not going to be as fast as sprinters early in that kind of race. But she's still running 2 lengths off of 22 and 2/5, 3 lengths off of 45 and 2/2. She's going to have the lead. I mean, there's just no way with her speed, even though she's gone as slow as 49, 113. There's no way with her speed she's not going to have the lead. And if she repeats one of those races from December at Gulfstream, she can do it. Now, she had never run 1.5 miles, as most haven't in the race. I checked Liam's map, who hasn't had a lot of horses yet. Believe it or not, I didn't write the horse's name, but Liam's map sired the winner of the 21 Pan American Stakes at Gulfstream, the 21 Cape Henlopen Stakes winner, which is 12 furlongs at Delaware, and the 23 Colonial Cup winner. So he can get 12 furlong horses. So I don't think we're going to get 15-1 because the shorter field, certainly not 20-1 like last week. But I like Sand and Sea a lot. I like Heavenly Appointed a lot. I think last race was kind of an aberration. Before that, 3 in a row. The difference was Kevin Gomez rode her in the 3 wins. Pratt rode her last out. Maybe he just didn't know what to do exactly. Gomez is back on. So I'm making it 6-1, and I'll use Chop Chop at the exact. 6-1-2 in the Kirtana.
As you're talking about Sand and Sea, I'm kind of looking and thinking, I might play around with that one myself, because don't you maybe look at that Indiana Grand race as he's just tried to get a little fitness into her?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's an Indiana bred.
Yeah.
So I mean, you want to make as much money as you can against those. I don't know why she didn't run some of those state bred races on the grass that they run, but these 100,000 handicaps at Gulfstream. But absolutely, you're not going to make. You got to really pick your spots with an Indiana bred. But she did, believe it or not, she cost $180,000 at auction. So that's pretty good for an Indiana bred too.
Yeah, it just looks like, hey, let's go out, let's get one under her. And maybe they actually had this in mind and just got a little fitness into it. I kind of like that. So that's the Kirtana. All right, at Monmouth today, the Cliffhanger. Again, we're on the turf at 1 1/16 in here. I pulled up a replay. Going to look at the Henry Clark back on April 20th at Laurel. And it's going to be Data Man winning. Data Man is the number 6 horse in here getting it done. And off of this win, Data Man for Grand Motion is interesting in the the cliffhanger this afternoon. Forever Super for Mike Trombetta with Santino on board. General Jim is an enigma, certainly over the past few starts. Started the career with such promise for Shug. Going to be interested to see what he does in the second start of the season and the move back to the turf. Interesting edition of the cliffhanger. What were your thoughts?
Well, this is an interesting race. You got look at the favorite First Data Man. He's a good horse. He's a 4-year-old, so he should improve second off the layoff. But I like He's Pure Gold better second off the layoff because he's got the Monmouth form. 5 for 8 at Monmouth and 2 for 16 at all his other tracks. And all those 5 were on the turf, including the state-bred Irish Warcry Stakes, which was second off the layoff last July. He was off from April to June, 4th, and then a win. Well, he ran 4th in his prep at Gulfstream. So, again, I think Kelly Breen was thinking about this race when he put him in that race at Gulfstream. Taco's ridden the horse, I think, his whole career practically. He's been up for his last few wins for sure. And I think anywhere near 4-1, I'm really going to like this horse. Now, again, talk about speed. And, there's the old saying, which is class laughs at pace on turf, but not as much lately. And you get a horse that gets the lead here, and you're thinking about what trainers are doing. So I look at a Laughing Boy, David Jacobson. He's shipping down from New York to run in this race. He won that controversial Excelsior Stakes via a DQ, and Messier was disqualified. He's run only on the turf a couple times, and of course this is one that Jacobson's had for quite a while with him. He's only won once since Jacobson had him with a bunch of seconds. But I can see that one race at Aqueduct in the Excelsior, when he went to the lead, he ran 46-3, 110-3, and a mile and eighth on the dirt. Boy, I'm telling you, that puts him on the lead here, Seth, and he could be pretty tough. So I'm using him in all my exotics. I'm going to bet He's Pure Gold. I like it about 5-2 or better, and I'm going to play some exotics with He's Pure Gold and Laughing Boy, and then kind of split the favorites, Data Man and Forever Super, who won the Turf Classic at Tampa. So I don't want to put the favorites in exact. So splitting them, I know but a lot of folks don't know. Splitting them means you play combinations avoiding them. So, for example, I'm going to play Laughing Boy and He's Pure Gold over Laughing Boy, He's Pure Gold, Data Man, Forever Super. Then I'm going to turn that around and play Laughing Boy, He's Pure Gold, Data Man, and Forever Super over Laughing Boy and He's Pure Gold. That way, the favorites come in 1-2. I wasn't going to make much money anyway. But if my top picks come in first and second, I hit both exacted.
I like it. I like the thoughts on Laughing Boy, the 20-1 morning line there. Interesting. All right. And finally, a couple of stakes down at Gulfstream. We'll take a look at one of those, the Mr. Steele, mile and a 16th on the grass. I pulled up a replay here. It's going to be a DQ, but I went back last year, just a little over a year ago, April of last year. Number 4, Win for the Money, will come under the finish line first, but there was some drifting involved and eventually winds up getting DQ, but did come under the wire first and Win for the Money back in here this afternoon for the seasonal debut for Mark Casse. And you can see that the little situation there that caused the DQ, but it was a nice effort otherwise for Win for the Money here at Gulfstream. And this is the seasonal debut. Last seen a couple of starts November and December in stakes action at Woodbine for Mark Casse, but comes back today in the Mr. Steele for the seasonal debut. So that one's intriguing in this race. What were your thoughts overall in the Mr. Steele?
Yeah, he's certainly a good horse. I mean, even if he won that race, he'd still be 7 for 12 first or second in his career. Only a couple on grass, but Casse started him out last year. He went from April of 22 to March of 23, got beat in net in a all-weather race at Gulfstream, classified allowance, and then he won at Colonial off a 3-month layoff, and then second in graded stakes. It's certainly a drop in class off those 3 graded stakes, 2 of which he ran pretty well in. So he's my second pick. My top pick's going to be the 5 Eldon's Prince for Safi Joseph. Again, a horse that ran in a graded stakes last time out in March, didn't run so well, but before that, in a classified allowance, a mile 16th on the grass, same as this at Gulfstream. He put in a nice rally for 5th on the turn, a few paths wide, got buffed a little bit, and still got up in time to win by a neck. That's a race I think he can repeat, and I think 6-1, you don't usually see that on Safi. He's got some great work since his last race as well. Then the 8 Win for the Money. I said he definitely a horse. May have beat maybe too low odds for a win bet, but definitely for exactas. And then the 4 Me and Mr. C, another what a hard knocking horse. 10 wins, 7 seconds, and 38 races. and 13 first or seconds on turf and 33. He's won for 8 at Gulfstream, which is a little odd, but he's run some really good races. He was third in the Turf Classic in Hampton off since then. Another maker. I'm maker right now. Just after last week, I'm watching everything he saddles. Horse did win 3 in a row last summer at Gulfstream, Indiana, and Ellis Park, including 2 stakes races of 100 grand stakes, exactly the same as this. So his best race is good enough. So it's 5-8-4 for me. Eldon's Prince win for the money, and me and Mr. C.
Very good. Ellis, as always, appreciate the thoughts, and not only on this afternoon, but looking back to last week's Preakness action as well. And are you ready for Belmont at Saratoga in a couple?
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I heard you talking about it. I like how the field's shaping up. Peter Pan winter is always fun, particularly since we're a mile and a quarter, not a mile and a half. So going from the mile and eighth to a mile and a quarter is very doable. He's interesting. And, of course, great to see Sierra Leone back. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Maybe be more exciting than Preakness.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, no question about it. I can tell you in this area, just walking through the supermarket and people recognizing me, the excitement level, as they said in Spinal Tap, we're at 11 on the excitement level meter. So we're looking forward to it. Ellis,
Okay.
we'll let you go, but always appreciate the conversation. We'll talk again.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.
Ellis Star, national racing analyst for Equibase. All right, we'll take a break. And as promised earlier, when we come back, Mike MacAdams from the Daily Gazette. Mike was down at Pimlico last week, so we'll get some of his firsthand thoughts on the action down in Baltimore. And obviously, as I said, when I looked at his Twitter feed, he's been up at Saratoga in the last few days as well. So we'll get some thoughts on what the excitement level is up there on track, because it seems like the activity is really ramped up. I mean, if you're not familiar, the Oklahoma track opens in April typically and goes to about November. And so if folks aren't familiar, there is action up there on track outside of the racing season. But it seems like things have really ramped up with the situation this year, with action coming fast and furious in just a couple of weeks. So we'll get some thoughts from Mike on that as well. All of that right after this. Stay tuned. Racing Across America will continue.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Mike MacAdams from the Daily Gazette. Mike, good morning.
Morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. And I know you were down in Baltimore last week. And before we get into, the Preakness, just curious, because I've talked to a couple of people who were down there. Last Sunday's show had Steve Bick on, and we talked a little bit about it. But I'm just curious, as you were there this past weekend, was there a sense in the facility where people kind of, it's, the last one in this facility, where people kind of soaking that in at all?
Just speaking for myself, I can say, yes, that was the case. It's funny because when I was at Belmont last year, it never occurred to me that this would be the last time I set foot in here under its current, incarnation. But last week I did. Now, some of the about Pimlico seem to suggest that they're trying to hang on for dear life and have one more Preakness there because it's going to be number 150 next year, just sort of out of a sentimental angle. But I don't know how they're going to pull that off because they're supposed to start tearing pieces of it down, I think, in September of this year. And so it's going to be in a state of destruction. And I mean, they're talking about temporary seating and things like that. I mean, it's going to look like hell, I believe. But I think there is some sense that they're trying to like keep it together so that they can celebrate the 150th there before they move to Laurel Park. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it is an idea that's out there.
Yeah, I got a sense they're going to do what Arlington did after the fire and have like a tent kind of a situation, because I think just what you say, the 150, they do want to be there. So I had that sense, but I was just curious if people were kind of like, oh, it's our last time here. And did you get any sense just bouncing around the backstretch at all? Maryland horse people, how are they feeling about the situation down there? Because it seems like maybe they've righted the ship a little bit after there were some worries earlier in the year.
Yeah, I kind of wrote a column about that situation. And the sense I get is that they have a plan. They have things they want to do that are very ambitious. They have a certain amount of money in place to get it done, which is $400 million through bonds from the state. But it might be a little too ambitious. I mean, they're tearing everything down and reconfiguring the track and doing all. I mean, they really have a lot of plans in place. For the first time in forever, though, it seems like they're going to forge ahead, these full torpedoes, the whole bit. So there is like some resolution to the whole thing. It's just a matter of are they trying to put a square peg in a round hole kind of thing from a money standpoint, whether what they have set up is going to be enough to do everything that they're, because they're ultimately, they're going to shut down Laurel Park as well once Pimlico rebuilt. And so it's kind of, me personally, I think there's a little bit of, I'll believe it when I see it, but at least the ball is going to get rolling finally after years and years and years of all these complications and not finding the money and who's going to be the authority in charge of this. And, state politics gets involved. That's always a fun time. So, the only thing that's different is that it seems like people are like got their bootstraps on and are going to finally make something happen.
Yeah. And you've been around long enough to feel the way I do that Maryland, one of the bedrocks of American racing, the Washington D.C. International, I remember, and the Laurel Futurity, and so it's good to see that circuit certainly have a little bit of life and some good feelings going forward. So rooting for them certainly. But last weekend, obviously, all eyes were on Baltimore and the Maryland circuit, Pimlico and the Preakness. We'll watch the stretch run again. Just love to get your thoughts. And I said it, I did not use Seize the Gray, and I was in here doing a bankroll for a bankroll team, and I had gone heavy on, boxing up the exacta with Mystic Dan and Catching Freedom. So at the top of the stretch, I thought, I may be in good shape here.
You're in good shape.
No, Seize the Gray pulls away. But as I said, if you can't win, you like the good story. And being a newspaper guy, you can certainly appreciate that. And Wayne Lucas with his, seventh Preakness and, the jockey getting a stakes win like this, Triple Crown victory. There were some good storylines involved. What were your thoughts coming out of the Preakness?
Yeah, you pretty much echoed feeling about 88-year-old Hall of Famer Wayne Lucas being the one to win it, including Bob Baffert and Kenny McPeak, who I talked to right after the race, and they both said the same thing. If I'm not going to win it and Wayne wins it, I'm okay with it. That's the best alternative to winning it themselves. I picked Catching Freedom, and I think the scratch of Muth double-edged sword. Yeah, you lose a really good horse that you don't have to beat now, but I think he could have softened up Seize the Gray a little bit on the front end, which would have set it up for both Mystic Dan and Catching Freedom, who both ran well too, by the way. Yeah. But tremendous story, Seize the Gray, and then typical Wayne Lucas old school fashion, he's going to wheel him back in the Belmont.
Yeah, that is typical Wayne Lucas fashion. It was also typical Wayne Lucas fashion that the horse went to the front and led all the way around, because if you go back over the years, some of his biggest victories and upsets were done in that fashion. So it was a little bit apropos, as it were. I saw pictures, and you were there during the week. He still gets on the horse in the morning, right?
And he doesn't like people to take his picture cane, because he's still kind of age self-conscious, but he still gets on the pony every morning. I can't think of the name of the pony. It's like, there's only about 1 trillion photos of that horse out there in the world. But he really is a marvel. I'm not sure when exactly he's going to be up here, but he's bringing the horse. And one interesting note about Seize the Gray that he mentioned, they wanted to run him in the Derby, but he was number 21 on the points list, and he didn't want to take a risk that nobody would scratch out, and then you're out of luck and stuck with nothing. So that's why they were in the Pat Day Mile on the Derby undercard. They had two choices, and he didn't want to risk getting shut out of the Derby, even though he was right there on the edge of the bubble. And so then he wins the Pat Day. Everyone's probably thinking, well, this horse is totally unproven, trying to get a mile and 3/16 in the Preakness. And the horse did his thing, ran great, got a great ride from a very, very inexperienced jockey, Jamie Torres. And the rest is history.
Another good storyline. We talked a little bit about it in the break. Saratoga Springs native Cherie DeVoe. She had just a phenomenal weekend. 3 wins, 3 stakes wins on Friday. And so that was a fun storyline as well.
Yeah, and 2 of the stakes were ungraded, but the big one she won was the Pimlico Special with like the other 2 were pretty heavy favorites, but Pyrenees in the Pimlico Special was not a favorite. I can't remember his odds. It was like 6-1 or maybe something like that. And Kings Barnes was in there, and that was just a huge cherry on the top of the Sunday for her. A tremendous weekend, and she's having a great year with that filly sprinter Vava. So maybe we'll see that horse up here at some point. So she really is kind of in the midst of a year for herself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it seems like I said this last week, and I meant to look it up. Anecdotally, I want to say going back about 6 months or so, but it could be a year or maybe a little bit longer even. She's just been on a little bit of a roll and really kind of come into her own as a trainer, and she's going to be certainly intriguing to watch. But a day like that kind of highlighted and spotlight, put the spotlight on her as well. And so, again, always happy to root for the local connections. Speaking of local, in Saratoga, again, checking your Twitter feed, I see you've been up there recently, and love to get a little follow-up. And I'm curious, I mentioned it before the break, and I'm getting this sense as I look at Twitter and read who's arrived and the horses that arrived, whatnot. Is there more activity right now on the Oklahoma and really just the Saratoga backstretch in general, as you would normally see this time of year, with the big meet being a couple weeks away?
Yeah, there sure is. I will say that Chad Brown and Todd Fletcher have like about 1,000 horses each up here, and you see them all over the place. One thing that's kind of interesting, I was kind of doing a scouting mission to see when Sierra Leone was going to work today. I didn't see a lot of activity on the main track, which has been open for a couple of weeks now for training, which is unusual. But again, we're in an unusual year with the Belmont being up here instead of Belmont Park. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty busy. A lot of the usual suspects that you always see that are like the first arrivers in April, like Bill Mott and Christophe Clement, have a bunch of horses here. So yeah, it is more, but it should be. I think they have 900 horses on the grounds already. And again, not surprising with things being a couple of weeks away. Saw some pictures. We were walking around the facility. I like the car parked underneath. He said somebody
somebody solving the parking.
One year there was a boat. Somebody had that boat under there.
I remember seeing that picture. Yeah, but it was like,
I don't know what the story was there. The boat's gone now, but the beautiful Mustang, is down there.
Yeah, the Mustang with like a drive-through in one of the bottom level food stands. But I'm curious, have you walked through this? There was the video on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. The bottom level of the clubhouse looks like it's getting a major redo.
It really has, and it's beautiful. They basically blew up the Jim Dandy bar and so the big opening where you would walk straight in and the bar would be over to the right. That's a wall now, and so it's an open air bar around the corner to the left. They redid the bathrooms. They got these beautiful like mosaic little tiny square tiles on the wall to form like this old school picture from the 40s or the 50s of the track with some cars, old cars there, which is really nice. The mutual wind along the left side there when you're walking in toward the track, those have all been redone and are brand new with all TVs. I will say, regrettably though, with the new TVs up over the mutual bays, they got rid of the really old school like light bulb tote board that's probably been there for 75 years or something. So that's gone. And then they also added what's called the clubhouse grill at the end of the that bank of mutual windows that I don't know what they're going to sell there, but there's a nice grill there where you can buy food. What else did I see? I was disappointed. They took down my little clocker tower out by the quarter pole, which I used to jump on top of that to get to video workouts coming around the grandstand turn. So I was disappointed to see that. A couple other little tweaks and things, new stuff around. But as you mentioned, that section on the ground floor of the clubhouse where the Jim Dandy bar is, that's like we redone. It's really nice too.
On the press side of things, is the press presence more notable with the meet being a couple weeks away? Because this time of year, normally up there wouldn't be many people, but is it still that way and probably will be another week or so before things turn up, or have things already kind of ramped up a little bit as far as people walking around the backstretch and catching up with the trainers and whatnot?
Not from a media standpoint. I mean, there are only a couple of us this morning. I know Fox has a camera crew that's been, I don't know how long, they've been here for a week or two, and they've seen them this morning and yesterday kind of walking around filming stuff and getting Sierra Leone's breeze. And so Fox has sort of like an advanced crew getting, B-roll or whatever they're doing. But generally, there's a lot of fans, good number of fans that are coming out to the Whitney stand and stuff because the workout training hours are open on certain days from 7 to 10, which they will be open during the 4 days of the racing festival itself as well. So media standpoint though, we got some clockers up in the press box, and Mike Welsh from the Daily Racing Forum, and then a couple of us other usual suspects.
Yeah, very good. And we will have our presence there Saratoga week. Looking forward to having our morning programming up at Saratoga a little bit early, but it'll be a lot of fun. Certainly Belmont Stakes action up there. And what's the sense you're getting? Because I know people know you from writing about racing for the Daily Gazette. For me, just running into people, going back to probably December when things were kind of finally finalized, but it has gotten more and more and more. The excitement level just running into people, I'm assuming probably the same for you.
Yeah, I had a Belmont Stakes hat on in the supermarket one time, and this was months and months ago, and the guy checking me out said, Belmont's in Saratoga this year, and I said, yeah, I'm pretty well aware of that, actually. So
thank you.
People are pretty fired up about it, as they should be. And for me personally, I'm not sure what the whole scene is going to really be like. I mean, I don't expect it to be identical to a typical Travers Day, but it's going to be the same number of people. So I'm not sure, like, once we get push comes to shove and the festival is upon us, like what the vibe is going to. But you see hints of it. People are aware of it and they're fired up about it. It's just such a unique thing. Never happened before. And anytime you throw that component into it, people are going to get, kind of juiced up a little bit.
Have you been getting a sense walking around of, there's a probable field put out already, but as you've talked to trainers or whatnot, sense of, who may be kind of tilting towards favoritism might be a little too strong, but where we may be falling as far as horses that are going to be attracting some attention.
Yeah, I got my list right here in front of me. So we saw Sierra Leone breeze this morning under Chad Brown's top exercise rider, Chris Bond. He did drop a little bit of a bomb on us when we were talking about, I asked him about going back to the Derby because the horse has a tendency to lug in, and he told us that Flavien Prat will replace Tyler Gap-Leon for the Belmont. He gave us a very detailed reason why. He characterized it not as a punishment or a blame thing, but he said they go through such intricate preparations with these horses, and one of the things he didn't want Tyler to do was to wait too long to switch his stick from his right hand to his left hand, because the horse does have a tendency to lug in, as kind of swapping paint with Forever Young, toward the wire. He wanted Tyler to have the stick in his left hand to kind of correct the lugging in sooner than he did. So that one little detail was enough to kick him off the horse for the Belmont. Chad also has Tuscan Gold under consideration. He was fourth in the Preakness, hated the track at Pimlico every step of the way because it was muddy. So that one out. He's going to work him next weekend and then make a decision, so you could count him as a maybe. Todd Pletcher has 4 on my list. Fierceness, last year's 2-year-old champion. He's definitely going and Mind Frame is pretty solidly a candidate for the race, even though he hasn't raced above the allowance level, but he's 2 for 2 impressively. If he doesn't go to the Belmont, he'll run in the Pegasus at Monmouth. Antiquarian up this morning. He's probably over there right now. He's coming off the Peter Pan win. And then kind of an outsider for Pletcher is Protective, who's still a maiden, came in third in the Peter Pan. But he's on the list as a possible, I'll believe it when I see it. But so that's 4 from Pletcher. We know Dornock, who's 10th in the Kentucky Derby. He breezed on the Oklahoma this morning, 48.48. He's good to go. We went over and talked to Kenny McPeak. Mystic Dan is good to go. Torpedo Anna, the Kentucky Oaks winner, is under consideration for the Belmont, but only if Mystic Dan doesn't run in it. He's not both of them in the Belmont, and if she doesn't run in the Belmont, she's probably going to hit the Acorn on the same card. We already mentioned Cesar the Gray, Wayne Lucas. He's good to go. Honor Marie is on the list. Bill Mott has an interesting horse, Batten Down, who's a full brother to Tacitus, who was second in the Belmont in 2019. He's coming off a maiden victory on April 30th, in which he not only beat older horses by 8 3/4 lengths. I don't know who he beat because he went off at 3 to 5, but he still won impressively against, and it was at the 1 1/4 Belmont distance. So Bill Mott has him lined up for the Belmont. And then the last one I'm not really sure of is that New York bred, the Wine Steward. He just worked at Churchill Downs this morning for Mike Maker. He's second in the Lexington, second in the Peter Pan. I haven't been able to dig up whether he's coming here or not, but if he does, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's kind of my list right there.
Yeah, pretty solid group, it seems like we have to look forward to.
You got the Derby Preakness winner and the 2-year-old champion. So pretty, and the favorite's probably going to be Sierra Leone, who is not any of those 3 that I just mentioned.
Yeah, no, it looks
he's really, really high on that horse and has been all along. And except for that, the mistake that he pointed out that Tyler made in the Derby, and the horse, I think, lost the Remsen by a nose. So that's basically 2 noses, or the horse would be undefeated from 6 starts or whatever it is now. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be the favorite, even though you got the Derby and the Preakness winner in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at that either. So it looks like a solid Belmont Stakes, and there's certainly an undercard. As you mentioned, Torpedo Inn and the Acorn Reds interest. But the entire week, I think, is shaping up to be a good week of racing up here. And I'm looking forward to it, and folks can look forward to your coverage in the Daily Gazette. But Mike, we appreciate the visit this morning, and when we talked before we went out, you're in Saratoga right now?
Yeah, I'm looking out at the track right now. I still have to file my story for tomorrow's paper about one. So, but that shouldn't take too long.
Very good. We appreciate the thoughts and the preview and review, as it were. And we'll talk again. Certainly, when we talk again, we'll have you come over and sit in with us some morning on the set, actually, in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. But appreciate the conversation.
I would love to do that.
Appreciate the conversation this morning.
Maybe I'll see you at Desperate Annie's first.
That's a possibility.
Gotta get the obligatory plug in every time.
Absolutely. It's a possibility. Mike, appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Seth.
Mike MacAdams from the Daily Gazette. Again, a little review. He was down in Baltimore last weekend and been in Saratoga for a few days, kind of getting the jump on the big 2 weeks. 2 weeks away. It's going to be fun, and we'll have plenty of more conversation about it over the next couple of weeks, certainly. And again, we will be live with typical. Our set is not there. If you're driving by, our set is not there yet, but it will be there in plenty of time for things to kick off on Belmont Stakes Week. We will be broadcasting our normal morning programming live from the Saratoga backstretch that week, and I'm looking forward to it as much as you are. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for this Saturday morning. Seth Merrow, Racing Across America. As you might have gotten an idea this morning as we talked, there is plenty of really good fun action this afternoon. We touched on a number of the stakes at the various venues. I'll be back, an hour and a half or so to kick off OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. I'm just looking. Belmont at the Big A actually kicks off at 12:30 today, so I'll probably be back earlier than an hour and a half. I'm just checking 12:45 for Churchill. So again, we're an hour and a half away from things actually kicking off. So I'll be back a little sooner than that, because I will look at Belmont at the Big A and Churchill today. But we will, as usual, have plenty of extra action as well. And speaking of extra action, how about the extra fun today here at the Clubhouse Racebook? If you'd like to stop down and enjoy the Play the Board contest, we would love to have you here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon. Watch all the racing action, catch a little lunch in here if you'd like, and also Play the Board contest. That's this afternoon here at the Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And I have to remind you as well, on this holiday weekend, we will have nighttime thoroughbreds available via Capital OTB Bet here on Capital OTB TV. Tomorrow night, Sunday night, and Monday night, thoroughbred action will be available. So keep that in mind over the Sunday and Monday holiday. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Be back in, again, a little less than an hour and a half, OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. We'll see you then. We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.